Hello and welcome to the Pond End Podcast, where no one listens and we don't care. Today on the pod, we welcome Fisher center back Sam Fitzgerald, as well as his friend Jack Hayman, who reports for the Non League Chronicles. The Pond End Podcast was recently nominated for Football Content Awards under Best in Non League for Podcasts. If you enjoy this podcast, you can vote for us at footballcontentawards.com under Best of Non-League Then Podcast, or under the Football Content Awards Twitter or Instagram pages. If you have any questions about voting, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter. Come on the fish. And today on the Pond End Podcast, we welcome Fisher center back Sam Fitzgerald and Jack Hayman, reporter for the Non League Chronicles. First, we have Sam. Sam, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I've been down Fisher coming up to 3 years this January, I think. Hopefully this will be the first full season I actually managed to complete. First two cancelled because of COVID, but fingers crossed we managed to make it all the way through.
And how old are you, Sam?
So I'm 26 now, 27 in January. Been playing centre back pretty much since going 11-a-side men's football. So used to do a little stint up front and in midfield, and gradually worked my way back as I got older and bigger. So yeah.
Which team do you support, Sam, professionally? And is there a reason why? Is it a family connection?
Yeah, so I'm a Leyton Orient fan, as it goes. Always have been. My dad was sort of born over that side, Hackney, East End. So sort of inherited that from the age of about 6, 7. Was always going down there, had season tickets. Used to train on a Saturday morning, go straight over to Orient, watch them, and then play on the Sunday. So haven't managed to get down much since sort of picking up the Saturday football. Just mainly because training in midweek, games midweek, playing on a Saturday. Managed to go actually with Jack to watch against QPR the other week for the first time in about 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it was nice to be back down there and be amongst that again.
Is there a Orient memory growing up that you remember?
There's probably two main ones. Oxford away, the last game of the season. I can't remember when it was, but it was our promotion season into League One. I remember travelling down there with my mum and dad, watching that game, and I think we scored with like 3-4 minutes left, and it sent Oxford down and got us promoted. And yeah, that was just unbelievable. That celebrations going on then. And then the second one was our playoff season. Got to the playoff finals. I think it was 14-15. Jack will be able to correct me on that. But
13-14.
13-14, year before. Yeah, and well, after that it went very wrong very quickly. So up until half time on the playoff final, yeah, that was a fantastic season. But yeah, I try not to remember anything after that.
And Jack, what would your Orient favourite memory be?
Well, after Sam inflicted Leyton Orient on me, our actual National League promotion season was fantastic. Obviously, the late Justin Edinburgh in charge. I just had some fantastic sort of days out there, and it was quite a sort of southern-based league. I mean, there had quite a few sort of London teams in and about the league. I've had some great away days in the league. I mean, I remember we beat Portsmouth away with an absolute screamer from Joby McAnuff, which was a highlight of that season. And then more recently, just like this last sort of couple of weeks, just going back to Orient's been fantastic. Just it's all right watching Fisher, but it just sort of Orient, it just sort of electric. I love watching Fisher, but honestly, no, it's like I went and someone plugged me back in. It's amazing.
What made you start following Orient? Is it family, friends?
Sam said, "Why don't we go for my birthday?" And I went, "All right then, yeah, we'll go." And it just sort of grew from there. It just sort of thought this is actually quite good. So I started going, and then I had a season ticket the year after the playoff final, and we got relegated. And then I went, oh well, it's a one-off, it happens. And I got another season ticket, and then that it's sort of spiraled from there. And I've now had the season ticket 8 seasons, and I've got people I sit with over there, and it's just grown. It's I really enjoy it. I just really enjoy going over there, seeing everyone.
I mean, Jack used to be a Chelsea fan, so I apologise quite frequently for dragging him down, making him become an Orient fan. Because after the dizzying heights of that, there's nothing quite like League Two football.
Not lived till you've been to Morecambe away. You've not lived.
Yeah, don't worry, boys. I'm an Oldham fan, and considering how we started this season, we'll probably be in the National League 2 next year as well, like you guys have been. So, yeah, it's not fun. I think we've had more games we've stormed the pitch than we've won in our last 10 games overall. So,
yeah, been there with Orient, stormed the pitch with Orient, fun time as well.
Yeah, very weird times indeed.
So, Sam, who was your footballing idol growing up? Could be at Leyton Orient, could be somewhere else, could be at Fisher.
At Leyton Orient, we had a centre half when I went down and watched regularly. John Mackey. He was just everything that is my style of defending. Sort of every other week would have a cut on his head, playing with a bandage on. He was captain. He was just a proper leader, a proper defender. I would put his body on the end of anything to stop a goal. And yeah, that promotion season where we went to Oxford and got promoted last game of the season, him and Gabriel Zakuani at the centre of that defence were just unbelievable. He was one that when I was younger and sort of started out playing centre back more regularly, he was definitely one I looked to and was like, yeah, that's definitely something I can do. That's my style of defending. And then a couple of years later, we had someone called Matthew Baldry down Orient, and Jack knows how much I loved him. He was completely opposite, like absolute class on the floor. Ball at his feet was unbelievable. But I mean, that was just more admiration for him. I've not something I could ever aspire to. It's not really my style of play, but yeah. And then on the bigger scale, just pretty standard for a centre half, really. John Terry, just absolute animal of a defender. So yeah, those sort of players I've always sort of tried to look at, take parts of their game and try and add it to mine, and just be like, how can I improve watching these players? How can I implement what they do in my game and try and kick on that way? So yeah.
So Sam, you mentioned the Orient player and John Terry. Would you choose one of them two centre backs to play with if you could, or would there be someone else from the past? And who from the present would you like to play alongside?
I think any centre back would have to play alongside John Terry. I mean, just having that experience, the communication alongside you'd be able to learn so much training and playing with him regularly. I think, yeah, I don't think you couldn't not choose him. Nowadays, I'd probably say, even though he's coming probably towards the end of his career, just moved to PSG, it'd have to be Ramos. Again, it's just the passion he takes in defending, the dark arts, the dark side of the game. He'll do anything to win and stop someone scoring. And again, you could just learn so much from him. Just a natural leader, a natural defender, and it's just, you couldn't not play alongside him. Those sort of players, it'd just be unbelievable the amount you could learn and develop.
And would you try and convince AJ to play alongside you at all?
He's been trying to tell me he's getting his boots back on, but every time I tell him, don't bother, leave him hanging up, please. I've got Aaron and Joe, so.
I thought pre-season we might have seen him get his boots on.
Yeah, I gave him a bit of stick for that. He said he was gonna play 60, but he told me that it was too hot. I think it was something like 30 degrees at Barking, and he didn't fancy it. So yeah.
You missed Luke though. Luke put his boots back on.
He come on against Glebe on Tuesday, didn't
he? I heard about that. Yeah, he come on against Forest Hill Park in pre-season and scored with his first touch.
We're all hoping he'd do the same Tuesday night, but no. I think a few of us here will know how that free kick went in the end.
I was surprised he stepped up. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, I think in situations like that, it's whoever fancies it.
Yeah.
And if you fancy it that much, it's hard to get you off that ball, I guess.
Yeah.
Same situation. Whenever Rob Brown's around a free kick or a penalty, it's a nightmare getting that ball off him. There's no point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So Sam, what was it that made you want to join Fisher, and how much did you already know about the history of the club?
So originally I played my first season at this level 3 years ago now was with Greenwich Borough, and I was sort of in and out of the team there, not enjoying my football, to be honest, towards the back end of it. Was getting fed up, and the club had ongoing court issues. I don't think anyone really knows what's going on there. It's back as clear as mud. But yeah, the club ended up winding up and folding sort of towards the end of January. And that meant I was without a side. AJ reached out to me on Twitter, so did Luke. I'd played against Luke that season twice for Greenwich Borough when he's playing up front. I still like to wind him up, so I had him in my pocket for both games. But his response is, we won both and I scored. So yeah, I can't really say too much when he has that comeback. But yeah, they asked me to come down to training, trained, signed up, and yeah, it went from there really. I played against Fisher, I think 4 or 5 times over the years with a few of my various clubs, and there's always been a good like following down there. As an away team, you're always getting stick, especially as a defender or a goalkeeper. Up the Dockers end, you're always going to be getting it for 45 minutes. But I mean, that's part of what makes football at this level so brilliant, is that you're right there on top of the pitch and you can hear and interact with the fans. And yeah, since joining, I've loved playing here and loved that interaction so much. It's bar like the top 3-4 sides who have a regular following like we do. It's so rare to find that at this level, and playing in that environment is just such a draw.
Jack, when was the first time that you saw Sam play?
When he was playing for Alpington Reserves in the park, which seems about a lifetime ago now. It was a rugby pitch, which was a bog, really. It's the only pitch I've nearly gone arse over tit on. In Goddington. Yeah, but he played with another mate of ours, Max, with his 50p head. But yeah, I mean, to start watching Sam regularly was when he got to his cup final, London Senior Trophy final with Phoenix Resis in 2018, and I come down to the final, and it was the best game I'd seen all season. Like watching Orient and watching a few like league games, but it was by far the best game I'd seen all season. So I thought I'll start watching. I said to you, I'm going to start watching you more regularly now, because that was really good, and it just went from there. But that was the first time was when I used to sometimes go and watch him play for Alpington, like Alpington Resis. But it literally was in the park.
Sam, you've played for various different clubs. How does Fisher compare to those other clubs? You've obviously mentioned the fans and the setup. Is there anything different that Fisher do to other clubs?
I mean, the original club I first started sort of Skeffel 1, and as Jack said, sort of some of the Kent County leagues when I was about 15, 16, straight into men's football at Alpington. That was definitely a very, I don't know, too disrespectful, but amateur setup. It was kind of like in Skeffel 1, they had a very little, well, no money, subs being paid, people showing up because they just want to play, enjoy football. Phoenix was a bit different, obviously, with the first team in the Isthmian League. It was a reserve side, so there's a lot of youth in there. Ben Coty, the manager, Westy, Reggie, the coaches, all great people. And yeah, they were very good at sort of developing those youngsters and keeping their heads up. And then we stepped onto sort of Greenwich Borough and Holmesdale with the same management team, and it was hard because I think they were used to that sort of reserve style of sort of football, not the pressure of winning, more developing players into the first team. So it was a weird transition. And then coming to Fisher, it's all about, at home, get results, be hard to beat, break down. This is men's football. Like, we're here to do a job from 1 when we get there till 5:30. This is our job. Like, we're here to put on a display, put on a performance, make the fans proud, and try and go home with 3 points as much as we can. So yeah, the switch in mentality there was good. Like, it got to the point where when I started hitting sort of 22, 23, I was feeling like I needed to push on a little bit, like being the oldest head in the changing room full of 18, 19. I know our squad's young now, but they're a lot more experienced at these levels, and the talent in our squad is ridiculous. But every single one of them has a good head. They're all switched on. They're willing, eager to learn. There's no egos. There's no one who's like out of place. It is a good group, and I think that's, again, has been a big difference, because before, a few changes have been a bit cliquey. When you're younger, you have little groups of friends in there, and it's not like that at Fisher at all.
Yeah. Sam, you mentioned the talent in the current squad. What player or a couple of players you think will go on to bigger and better things?
To be honest, I think if everyone gets their heads down and works hard, I think there's no reason why anyone in that team, if they really want to, can. It's just about application, because there's so much talent there. The one I've been sort of singing his praises quite a lot recently, I try and keep him grounded when they wind him up a little bit, but is Michael Sarpong. Has been, last year he was good. He's a utility player. He'll play anywhere for us and do a very good job. But over the last 3-4 months, this preseason, he's still only just turned 20, but his maturity has come along a long way, and his mindset seems to have just switched somewhere in that time. And yeah, I think he'll definitely be one that will push on. Courtney, recent signing, is coming. Really made himself at home. Looks very tricky winger. Again, those sort of positions are very easy to be snapped up if you get a good goals return. Christian's still young, only 20, 21, 22. I mean, a lot of people think he's older than that because of the way he carries himself. But Tommy Taylor up the other end of the pitch, like, is another one that's fantastic talent and great head on his shoulders. A lot of experience playing sort of like good non-league football, Maidstone, stuff like that. He's been around good keepers, experienced heads, and you can tell that's rubbed off on him, because he's got a very good attitude towards football, and like with his talent as well, he'll pick himself up and he'll really will push on. So yeah, there's so many in that team.
So how was your preseason back after some stop-start seasons, and how did you manage to keep fit during lockdowns?
It was a bit of a nightmare. The first preseason back last year, so for the season that was cancelled last season, we had a very, very long preseason. I think we was back for almost 7-8 weeks by the time the season started, which is a long time, but we was off for a long time, so it wasn't too bad. And then with the season just gone stop starting, it was very difficult to stay fit and match fit. I mean, you was always trying to keep yourself ticking over, just in the hope that, you know, the season would carry on. But yeah, it got very draining mentally, just not knowing what was going on. Never really sure. You couldn't prepare properly. And then after the Kennington game, when they announced that we're basically going to be in lockdown till March, that was pretty much it. So I think we all had a couple of months off up over Christmas, and then stayed in touch with each other. And then in the new year, we was like, well, it's looking like we might get some football back. So that's when we started really. We had to report in a couple of times a week, a couple of runs, some workouts, home workouts, stuff like that. That's what I was doing about 3 or 4 home workouts a week, a couple of runs, just taking the ball up to a park, trying to get my first touch back, because, you know, at the best of times, my first touch is like a brick wall. So after about 6 months out, wanted to get that as good as I could. But no, it was difficult, but I mean, we got through it, come back with some friendlies in March, and then had our London Senior Cup game, which didn't go the way we wanted. But yeah, after that, we had a few weeks off and then straight back into it. And it was much more like a regular pre-season, to be honest, what we're used to, sort of 4 or 5 fitness sessions. Michael, the coach Michael, was has been fantastic with us. It wasn't just running. It was there was a lot of running involved as well, away from training. But he'd get us doing proper short, sharp SAQ stuff, workouts, making it a bit fun, getting some music involved. And yeah, I think it really helped sort of build that team spirit, get our fitness back up. And yeah, I think I was saying to Jack, I said it to Jack, I think we kind of quietly done our business during the preseason friendlies. Like, no one really noticed, but when you look back, we lost one game. And I think we drew 2 or something like that, and the rest we won. And in that time, we scored a fair few goals. And I think that momentum carried through to the Rustle game. And I think if we had the Town on the Tuesday night, I think that would have been another 2 points on the board rather than the draw we had against them. I think that knocked our momentum, and then having a few injuries picked up and then having to travel away to Sheppey it's always going to be a difficult task. But yeah, I think that sort of slowed our momentum a little bit, and we're gradually trying to build it back up, but I think we'll get there.
I don't know what your thoughts on the game yesterday was.
I think yesterday was definitely a frustrating one because we were, in the last 4 games now, Town again probably could have come away with that 3 points. Yesterday should have come away with 3 points in my opinion. We had enough chances. Well, we was in enough good positions to make those chances better than what they were. Had a few scuff shots, a few things at the keeper, and it's just, I mean, that will come. And then, like, defensively, an error at the back has cost us. And, you know, players are going to make mistakes. It's just about picking each other up after that and going again. I don't think it helped. We've worked so hard at Sheppey to come away losing 1-0 to a scrappy goal that, you know, I think a draw would have been a fair result in that game. And either team could have nicked it. And, you know, Sheppey with the extra little bit of money and what quality that brings did. And then the Glebe game, I mean, to a man for 75 minutes with 10 men, I can't ask for anything more from any player. They just worked as hard as they could, put everything out there, and again, didn't get a result really the performance and the effort levels really deserved. And I think that carried into yesterday a little bit. We didn't start great. There's some good passages of play, but I think having that Tuesday night game and Sheppey in a short space of time, I think it took toll a little bit. The legs were wavering to the end, and we just couldn't push on and get that winner really.
Sam, do you have any personal or team goals for this season?
For the team, I mean, if we can get a good run going, I think there's playoffs at our level this season. It'd be lovely to try and sneak in them, but inside the top 10 is definitely the minimum for me. With the talent we've got and the core we got to build from. I mean, I've had a lot of centre half partners over my time at Fisher, just through injury and misfortune really, players getting suspended or injured. It's kind of happened again this season, but you know, Aaron's really come in and helped solidify that back line. So to build off that, I think me and him would both say the same thing. We want just as many clean sheets as possible. If we can keep clean sheets, it just gives the boys up top license to go and try and win us the game. And you know, the more we do that, the higher we can drag ourselves up. So I think as a team, top 10 minimum, and then personally, like I say, just as many clean sheets as possible. And yeah, just try and help some of the younger boys develop a bit of experience and just try and lead the team when I'm out there and just do what I can to help get points on the board really.
So Sam, what has been the highlight of your Fisher career so far?
I think it's got to be the Tooting and Mitcham game for sure. That just sort of shows the team spirit that we had back then, and I mean it's carried on into this season for sure. But that Tooting and Mitcham game was something else. We went there and we was aggressive. Tempo was higher from the off, and it was just one of those days. It never felt like we was going to lose that game, even at 2-1 down with 10 minutes left or 15 minutes left, whatever it was. I just didn't feel like we was going to lose. I never thought we was going to. And yeah, to go and win that penalty and for Josh to go and smash it down the middle and then go into straight to pens, yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, always remember. Well, on the way there, we all met up at Tube Station. It was Jack, Rob, me, and Josh. And Jack hadn't said a word. He's very quiet, very reserved. He's another one that the way he's come on this season will push on soon. But he was very quiet, very shy, especially last year. And when he stepped up and slotted his penalty away, the way he just shushed the Tooting and Mitcham fans behind the goal, I was at the halfway line just laughing. I was like, okay. Like when stuff like that happens and he stepped up like that after not saying anything the whole way there, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be our day. Yeah, it was brilliant.
And Jack, is there anything that you think we've missed and you want to ask Sam?
Do you not think you should be scoring more goals this season, given that you are the biggest man in the box by usually by a clear sort of 5 inches?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to score at least 3 or 4, but I mean, last season I come close a few times. I scored the one against Tower Hamlets, I think it was. So yeah, hopefully that's, yeah. I thought it was a good header down into the ground, managed to lob the keeper. I'm pretty sure that come off my chin, but yeah, I mean, I'll take another one of them on Monday if it means getting my first of the season and 3 points for sure. But yeah, I think with some of Courtney's deliveries, the way they've been coming in, he seems to just loop them all up back post. And I mean, so far I've got on the end of quite a few of them. I know he scored one direct yesterday, but yeah, I've managed to nod a few back across. I think we've won a penalty from it. Malachi scored a Glebe from it. So as long as I'm in there causing trouble and it drops to someone else, I don't care how it goes in the back of the net. But yeah, I would like at least 3 or 4.
And Sam, was you a penalty taker? Jack, have you told me that before?
Yeah. I used to be on free kicks and penalties, funny enough, for some of my teams before. I wouldn't take free kicks now, just because I think so long out of not practicing them, it would be worse than Luke's at Glebe. So no one wants to see that. You have people behind the ground taking their washing in. But yeah, penalties, I'll still step up and take them. Yeah, for sure.
Come on, fish!
Jack, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
I've started watching Fisher properly because of Ben. Obviously, Ben said, "Oh, you're going to come up Glebe." Ben being Ben Kilsby, and then I met Peter Parry. Everyone knows Pete, and it sort of went from there. Sort of thing. I just started coming down and watching them more often, and then Sam joined, which was kind of quite a neat little package. So then I had an excuse to come down and watch them. Other than that, Leighton Orient's my league team. I do a lot of ground hopping. Got quite a few mates to do that with. Enjoy that. Enjoy just watching football. Obviously, I do the match reports with the Chronicles, which was sort of Pete's idea. Why don't you just start doing this? And it's grown from there. I did a few last season for Kent Sports News. So don't think I did any Fisher games in the end. But yeah, I've done quite a few reports on the Fisher games. I think I did the 2-in-1, funnily enough. But yeah, I mean that's me. Not a lot to tell really.
Sam, is there anything you can tell us about Jack that you might have missed?
Not appropriate for the podcast, maybe. No, he's always been one to love his football. We've known each other for secondary school, beginning of secondary school. So yeah, always been football mad, whether it's watching on telly when he was younger, and then obviously now he's more able to get out and about. Yeah, just wherever he can find a game of football, he will. I know he's planning 2 for Monday, so
could be free.
But there you go.
So you mentioned the Chronicles. How did you get involved with Peter and the reporting at games?
Peter said, "Oh, why don't you do a little report?" And I think the first one I did was, I think it was Sheppey against Erith in some cup, one of the Kent Cups. And it was about paragraph too long, and I kind of went, "Oh, we'll go from there." And then I started doing some of the ones for Fisher, and then I think the first one I done was the Crowborough home game, which I think was your debut, Sam. You come on, and you played up top for the last 10 minutes. I think it was awful. It was like hailstones, and then it got in the program. And I'll be honest, that was a bit of a buzz. It's kind of like, wow, I did that, and it's good enough to go in the program. why don't I just keep doing it? And I think I did that, and I think I did the one for the Punjab game, which was the last game before the lockdown. So it just went from there. And when we got back out last year, it just carried on. Where Pete weren't really about, I did a couple of the friendly reports, the Sutton game and Stansfield game, which I was stood with you, John, didn't I? You and Ryan at Stansfield. And it's just gone from there. It's just nice when clubs sort of go, oh, thanks, that's really good, you know. It's not an ego thing, of course, but it's just nice to do it. It gives me something to do, quite frankly. It's just something I've always. I did try and do it a few years ago on my own, but I never really had the platform. Pete obviously had already had the Chronicles, so it gave me a platform to do it. I didn't have to sort of start it up from scratch. So at a base, and we're growing. We're up to about 700 followers on Facebook and about 800 and something on Twitter. So it's growing all the time. I know the three of us, me, Pete, and Charlie Bradford, have said we want it to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So that's where we want to go with it. But that's how I got going with it, really.
I mean, from a player perspective, stuff like that makes such a difference. I think every player loves to read a write-up or have the photos and the videos, especially for the goals and that. Like those sort of things, straight away, as soon as they come up, the players be flicking through them, trying to get hold of something that they can sort of like post up or just have. I know I've got a few screenshots of some photos and some of the reports and stuff like that, and yeah, I've got my one goal saved, and and my offside one against Little Common. Slowed it down, tried to draw the lines on it like VAR. I still think it should have stood, but there we go.
Come on, fish!
Jack, what do you look for in a ground that you've never visited before? Is there anything that you would look for, or just that you've never visited before?
Never visited is number one. I like old floodlights. I don't know why. I just really like old floodlights. It's really weird. Sam's shaking his head, but he probably thinks I'm a weirdo. He knows that, actually. One I really liked that I know Fisher played them a couple of weeks ago in the cup. Rains Park Vale, their ground's really nice. It's really sort of oldie weldy. They've got their own beer, they've got barbecue, big old floodlights. But there's a few other old ones. I mean, Great Yarmouth, where Ian Murphy is now, with the old stand. I do want to go to that. I think Bexhill United have got a nice old stand as well. But sort of oldie weldy charm. But if I haven't been there, I'll consider anything, even if it's like just the back of a leisure centre like Erith Town. But yeah, if it's got something interesting, it is obviously a more of a draw than just some sort of identikit ground.
So what is your maybe the best or your favorite ground that you visited, non-league or professional?
That's a hard question. I really like Blundell Park, which is Grimsby Town's ground. Had a really good day out there. Orient beat them 4-0, which kind of helped. It's got where we sat as away fans is like a really old wooden stand, and it's kind of a ground that's sort of stood still in time. It's in the streets. It's got big old floodlights. I don't think it's had any work done to it for about 40 years, beyond like a lick of paint here and there. It's a really nice old ground. I really like that, to be fair. Non-league Skeffel ground, Crowborough I like. Crowborough's a really nice ground. When we went to the pub before around the Wheatsheaf, which is a nice old pub, which helps. And the ground itself is really nice. You know, it's got that nice old terrace behind the ground, behind one goal, and then it's got the sort of two stands at the side. It's a really nice ground. That's probably my favourite Skeffel ground.
Sam, what would be your favourite grounds visited? Whether you're playing, watching?
I'd probably Tooting and Mitcham. I mean, I thought that was a lovely setup. I know they're Isthmian and they'd probably get a decent turnout regularly, but yeah, the change rooms were nice. The pitch was beautiful. The stand was great as well. A weird one as well that I kind of enjoyed, despite the fact it's awful, was when Crowborough used to be in, not Crowborough, sorry, who was it? Corinthians No, not Corinthians. Oh God, I'm having a nightmare here. I agree with Jack. Crowborough is a lovely ground, and they are always very welcoming there. But yeah, I'd have to go with Tooting and Mitcham. I think it helped just because of how good the day was as well. Crocken Hill, that's the one. Sorry, Crocken Hill. Yeah, Crocken Hill was a funny one. Pitched like a cabbage patch, but apart from that, just what a lovely old ground.
And Jack, best all-round value football ground visited. Entry price, food, drink.
That's a hard question. Just trying to think. I mean, for a day out locally, Glebe is pretty good because they've got a really nice bar there. I mean, I've got to say Fisher actually, because I mean, it's £8 to get in. The clubhouse now it's back open, obviously, as beers. The view's really nice. There's usually, I mean, this was just never really that boring watching Fisher. There's usually something going on. You know, and it's a really great atmosphere. Chatham's good as well. Chatham probably for the same reasons as well. You know, the tournament they organised after the lockdowns, all the grounds are good. Fiver to get in. Chats are a fantastic bar. Punjab as well. The food at Punjab. Got to mention the food at Punjab. It's amazing. It's the best food in the Skeffel, bar none. That's always a good day out and good value because again they're a really great bunch of guys. Same as Crowborough. Crowborough are great, and so are Punjab. You know you're always welcome down there.
So, what's been the best game that you've reported on so far?
Probably the Tooting game. Tooting game, definitely. Although Fisher should have won that in normal time. Not that I'm bitter or anything, but that ball definitely didn't cross the line for the corner. But that was a fantastic game. Like Sam said, he didn't believe that they were going to lose. I didn't believe. As soon as Jamie Ealer picked the ball up on a wing and decided he's going to just run at the fullback, I knew the fullback was in trouble. You know, I never believed they were going to lose. You know, I just believed. And the game after, I don't think I did the report for the game after, which was a Cray game, but that was a really good game as well on that run. But the Tooting game is probably the best game I've reported on so far, definitely.
And Jack, do you have a bucket list ground that you want to go to? And Sam, is there a bucket list ground that you want to go to and play at?
Bucket list ground. I've got a few, right? So top three, I would say Goodison Park, Everton, proper old ground. I mean, I'd love to go. I know they're not in Europe this season, but if they get into Europe before they leave there, I do want to go on a European night because I imagine the place just bounces. Hibs, Easter Road, that was going to happen before the lockdown, and then obviously COVID happened. That was literally going to be on the Saturday, the last lot of games, but then they got cancelled on a Friday. And then the other one, the one abroad, is St. Pauli. Anyone who's ever probably met me knows I've got the St. Pauli hoodie because I was going to go to St. Pauli, but that's the one abroad. Those three are my top three, definitely.
For me, sort of go to as a spectator is I haven't really been to many, so I'd say probably just any one of the big clubs like a Manchester United, even like a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, something like that to watch a game would just be fantastic. A Bayern Munich, a Dortmund, something like that would be brilliant. Just one of those experiences. And then as a player, I mean, last year, I think if we won that London Senior Cup game, we was meant to play Leyton Orient in one of the later rounds. And to go and play there in a competitive game would be fantastic. And then other than that, it's the obvious one. FA Vars run this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then Wembley. I mean, how could it not be? I mean, I think we'd have to do some serious running for the size of that pitch. But yeah, what a day that would be.
So, John, I want to turn that question on you. What is your bucket list ground?
Ooh. I've always wanted to go to San Siro and Bernabeu. I've done Barcelona with Chelsea Champions League. And I've done most of the Premier League grounds, so probably those two. And yourself, PJ?
Yeah. Well, definitely St. Paul's. That's got to be up there. But I would say, being a Milan fan, I would say San Siro as well, especially because they've been, I don't know how far along they are with it, but building that new stadium for Inter and AC Milan. So it would definitely have to be San Siro.
Well, thank you both for taking the time today to join us on the podcast. It's really appreciated.
No worries. Thanks for having us on. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Come on, the fish.
Thank you for listening to the Pond End Podcast, where no one listens and we don't care. We would like to thank Sam Fitzgerald and Jack Hayman for coming on today's episode. We would also like to remind you that you can vote for us for the Football Content Awards under Best in Non League for Podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter.